Right, good morning everybody, welcome to the Wednesday Bike Club. So what are we talking about today? Well, it's something that struck me, and it's all related to this bike, the Goodsy Stanello. And it just made me think, that this bike now is so beautifully run in. It's getting close to 4,000 miles. And how different it is to when I first got it. And it's sort of constantly improving. And it just got me thinking about how we give new bikes enough time to run in and develop, and just get that point where all the components are sort of working beautifully together. And I just thought it was an interesting thing when you think how quickly we change bikes, and I thought we'd talk about that today. So let's get to the little Sussex bench and have a chat about that. Come on. Right, so here we are, guys. We're in that weekend now where it's blisteringly hot. I mean, it's what was it? I didn't get up that early this morning. It's 10:45, and it's about 30 degrees. So it's beautiful here at the Sussex bench. But before my camera explodes from the heat, so yeah, this made me think about this other day. I've been riding the Goodsy quite a lot recently, and really, it's really starting to come into its own. The mileage on it now is getting close to 4,000, and you sort of get a sense that the bike is now, it's all gelling together, that all those components are starting to work in unison. And it made me think that, well, why do we sell bikes so quickly? People buy new bikes and then 6 months later they sell it because they can't get on with it. I don't like it. And I'm as guilty as anybody is, because I nearly sold this very quickly after getting it, because I just thought, oh, he's awful. What a bike. And then I had to do a little bit of fettling with the clutch and bits and pieces of suspension as best I could. And I think that might be the problem, is that the thing with motorbikes, where they differ slightly from cars, I think, is that they're like a sum total of parts, aren't they, when they're manufactured? They're all bolted together. And it takes time. It takes time for all those components to start working together in a sort of unified way, if you like. I sort of thought about the analogy of, that when a bike is put together, all the parts are sort of shaking hands. They're all together, all shaking. Up, morning, nice to meet you. Yes. I'm the crankshaft. Oh, I'm the camshaft. So lovely. And you get that, and they haven't built a relationship yet. And all those components, it takes time for all those sort of completely all those components which don't recognise each other yet, to start to build a relationship and sort of understand each other and how each other works. Now that might sound really, really stupid, but it's like when you think of a car engine, when you rebuild a car engine, when you take the pistons out, the cranks and all the rest of it, and the main bearings and all the rest of it, you've got to put them back in the same order, because after a period of time, those things, they wear to a certain, to where they are positioned within the vehicle. And motorbikes are more, they suffer more with that, I think, because of all the components, things like the brakes and the wheels and the gearbox. We know that gearboxes take time to wear in, and I think that's the same with everything. It's almost like a bike gets used to your riding style, and if you really treat it kindly, all those components have a better relationship with each other, to a point that when, if you do the proper running procedure, the bike that you have, say 3,000 miles down the line, is completely different to the bike you had when you took it off the shop floor. And I think that's really important, because I think you miss out on the best bit of that bike. I think you really do. I think you get a bike that is just sort of a vehicle full of components which aren't really in a relationship yet, and it takes time to do that. And I've noticed that I had that with my the classic 350 that I bought. Now, as far as I can, someone's really run that in well, because that is by far the best 350 I've ever ridden, and it runs beautifully. And I think someone took the time to let those components have a relationship with each other, and it really does work beautifully. And it's the same as this. It's taken time. It's a bigger bike. It's taken time for all those components to start, getting it together, and working in unison. And now that they have, it really seems to sort of work very differently to the time when I first picked it up. And I can remember doing on a ride down to, I think it was Sykes Harley. I can't remember. I went down there for something or other, and which was quite a long ride. And by the time I got back, I was absolutely knackered. I just didn't get this bike at all. And it's taken another sort of 2,500 miles for me to build a relationship with it, and then all the components to build a relationship with me. And it's like, it sort of understands me a bit more and how I ride. I know this might sound completely daft, but I think that's always the problem as well with test rides, is that when you do a test ride, the bike will always be, will feel a certain way, and off the shelf, most of the bikes will all feel the same. But if you ride one of those bikes which has got quite a few thousand miles in it, it'll be completely different to one you take off the shop floor. I absolutely guarantee you. And if a bike has been running well, it's like riding a different bike. And I think that's the problem. This is why I think we have this situation where bikes go, change hands again and again and again and again, up until they've had about 5,000 miles in it. You go to a dealership, you go to a Superbike factory, and you see some of those bikes 2 or 3 years old, and they've had 4, 5, 6 owners, and they haven't built a relationship with that bike yet, and that they're still suffering. They're still having the issue with the person that rode it before, And it's a bit like having ex-demo bikes. Ex-demo bikes really get hammered. People get on those bikes and they just thrash the crap out of them, and those components, they might have shaken hands, but they ain't got any relationship with each other. And that they're all like, they're still fighting and fighting and fighting, to the point where even some of those components give up the ghost and think, this isn't a relationship for me, and that the conrod comes flying out the side of the engine. You can recover those bikes if you start a proper running process again. You can get away with it, I think. You fresh oil, go through the proper sequence with it, and sometimes you can recover those. I know that my Scram 411 I had in France, that was an ex-demo bike, and I think that had suffered from a lot of thrashing. But as I started to use it, and all the components started to settle down, it got better. I still don't think it was as good as if I'd done a proper running procedure on it. But yeah, I think there's a whole mass of motorbikes out there which have been sort of used and not abused, but they've not had the care and attention taken to those first few thousand miles, which gives you a bike which is now properly settled. All the components, particularly the major components like the main bearings and the cams and all the rest of it, they've settled into their wear. They're wearing at the correct rate, and they've all settled in. You couldn't take the engine apart and put it back in the wrong order. It just wouldn't work. And I think that's where a lot of people make a mistake with motorbikes. They don't give them enough time. You've got to give them enough time to work, to run in and start to get a feel of how you ride. And also, it's another interesting thing, I think, is that, and it's slightly on the side to this, about tyres. I think tyres on motorbikes, particularly things like Enfields and bikes like that, they don't have the best tyres, and I think those bikes the performance and handling of those bikes and the way they ride could change enormously if you put better tyres on. I'm not saying that the things like the Seats are bad tyres. They're okay for a while, but they sort of fall off a cliff. And if you get to ride that bike when the tyres have fallen off a cliff already, even though they're legal, I think you'll get a bad bike. And I know when I've when I've changed tyres to things like the BT46s and stuff like that, so on the Interceptor, completely transformed that bike. Even though it was okay, putting those tyres on really lifted its performance and the way that it rode, and its total presence on the road was completely different. And when I sat on it, I felt very different about it. So, yeah, I think you've got to give a bike 3,000-4,000 miles before you think this isn't the bike for me, because I think you're missing probably the sweet spot of that bike, the point at which it all comes good. And if you buy a new bike, you've got to do a running sequence. You shouldn't start thrashing it around, because if you do the running properly, what also happens is that there comes a point with you and your relationship with your bike, when you do ask it for the extra bit of oomph and that, it's happy to do it. You know, it's going to give you all the performance because you've sort of like prepared it for that. If you thrash a bike from the showroom, you know, it's not going to work properly. It's not going to work properly, and I think you can end up with bikes that have lots of problems, which is different to cars. I think cars these days, because of the amount of performance you can get off a car, you're not really worrying it at certain speeds, and we don't seem to have that sort of running period now with cars like we used to. We used to have that, didn't we? You know, X amount of time at 40 miles an hour, 50 miles an hour, 60 miles an hour. But I think with motorbikes, it's really critical. And I think if you don't run in your bike properly, or your bike's not been running, it takes quite a long time to get that bike back into shape, into the relationship you're going to have with that bike. You know, you have to treat it kindly, and it'll pay dividends in the end, absolute dividends. And that's what's happened with this bike, is that as I've progressed with it and ridden it more and more and more, I'm absolutely loving this bike, absolutely loving it. It's got its little quirks, it needs a little bit of a warm up and stuff like that. And when you do that, there comes to points with this bike where you want to do a nice overtake or whatever it is, put away from a junction, you've got to go a bit quicker and all that. It absolutely rewards you in spades, this bike. We were out on yesterday. Karen's out camping at the moment, and I took this and I picked her up. She likes a bit of camping, and we went out for a quick drink, and God, it looks so good. You know, every time I look at this bike, I think, damn, that's a good looking bike. And not only does it look good, it rides really good now. It rides really good. It's absolutely superb. I changed the front tyre on this. I've got a Bridgestone. I've got the AX41 on here, and that's really good on this tyre. I've still got the sort of knobbly tyre on the back. One of the subscribers said he looked like the tyre was a bit low, but it was just actually the way that the screen, it was recording in the garage, and the light wasn't very good. But there's plenty of tread on this back tyre. But I might change that. But I find it quite hard to find the profiles that I want. But I think I'm getting to the point where now I want to do a full service on this bike. I want to get the valve check done, which is very straightforward on these Gutses, and because you can see everything. But yeah, it's a stunning bike, and allowing that, if I'd have given up on it that first time after that first ride, I was ready to get someone to come up to me and said, you can have this transcript, you can have this. You'd have gone, yeah, fine, great. You know, I couldn't get out the door quick enough. But now, I'm absolutely falling in love now. I'm having a really good relationship with this bike now. I just think it's absolute cracking. I really do. And that's just by giving it time. Don't give up on a bike. Give it time, and the bike will come back to you. It will come to you because you've taken the time to run it in, get the mileage on it, let all those components start to work together. They're not shaking hands anymore. They're having a proper relationship together, and it's all working. You probably think I'm nuts, absolutely nuts. You know, it's like Premiership managers, isn't it? You know, you got to give them more than 2 games to at least do something with the team. You know, don't change your bike so quickly. Give it time to develop, and I think that's critical with motorbikes. I really do. Right, I'm going to go and enjoy the rest of this day. I'm going to see if I can find a coffee that gets too hot before my camera explodes. But I hope you enjoyed that little sort of thought for the day, innit? Make sure you run your bike in, because you'll have a much better bike at the end of it. But let me know your thoughts on that and see what you think. You think my analogy is complete madness. Right, take care, and I will see you in the next one. Look after yourself and ride safe out there. Cheers.